What's up, everybody? It's Hailey Salvian and Sean Gentili here with you for another episode of the Athletic Hockey Show. Joe Smith, our Minnesota Wild beat writer, will join us later in the show to chat the big Quinn Hughes trade. But first, we'll get some news. We'll get some notes from around the NHL with Sean.
News and notes.
News and
Wow.
notes. That's right. That's always our first little segment. I've trademarked it. Only on Thursdays here, folks. You'll never see this on any other podcast or radio show on this planet. What's up? I feel like we haven't done this in a while.
Yeah, because you bailed on me last week and made me talk to the dreaded Chris Johnston all by myself. Thanks for nothing.
I know. CJ was like, "Oh, Haley's sick. Yeah, I'm available.
I'm in
Thursday."
I'm in. Tell Gentili to ring me up.
Gosh,
let's go.
No, I couldn't speak. I had it's been a long time since I felt like a little kid when I was sick. That makes sense. Like the full, I was freezing cold, body aches, fever, headache, lost my voice. It was like, I need my mom.
Yes.
I need a soup.
Yes,
either I need to be nursed back to health.
Acting like either a small child or a very, very old woman. Yes.
Hey.
It's one or the other.
Yeah. Really, really just feeble. And was like, I can't do the show. But I'm okay now. I'm feeling better. We're back.
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah. All right. So a little bit of news that we want to get to before we chat with Joe Smith. This came out on Wednesday after you guys were done with the show, but the Pittsburgh Penguins once again are being sold, this time to new owners, a Chicago-based family, the Hoffman family, Fenway Sports Group. They're out after 4 years. FSG, which took control of the Penguins from Mario Lemieux and Ron Burkle in 2021, selling the team off already. I got a text from my dad last night being like, WTF, FSG selling team, ? He was flabbergasted. So can you address my dad and the nation, Sean? What's the nation who wants to know?
The continents, yes. Canada and the United States.
Yeah, that's right. I guess my dad's not in America.
Also Mexico.
What's going on here? Because it seems weird, and this is the 13th time in the team's 58-year history that the Penguins will have new ownership. It's once again another group of out-of-town billionaires. FSG wasn't bad ownership, but fans didn't really love that they had zero ties to Pittsburgh, and now there's a Chicago family coming in. What do you make of this? How should fans or people like my dad be feeling?
So my understanding of this is that last year, whenever FSG publicly said, all right, we're looking for minority investors. So anybody want to buy $200 million piece of this team? Talk to us. The Hoffman Group wanted the whole thing. They were like, what? How about we just try to buy the entire thing? And Fenway Sports, they are a money-making endeavor above all else. I think they saw the opportunity to take a $900 price tag and turn it into a $1.75 or $1.8 billion sale price, and said, okay, yeah, we can try to make that work. So it's been slower going than we thought initially. In August, FSG and the Hoffman Group entered into an exclusivity period where they were the only ones who were allowed to negotiate. That lapsed. There was some question, I think, a couple months ago over whether the deal would go through, but here we are. It's December the 18th, and we got something done. A couple points. FSG certainly was disengaged. Is probably the harshest possible fair way to put it.
Penguins were not their priority.
No, because they got to worry about Liverpool and they got to worry about the Red Sox and whatever else. There was no full-time FSG executive in town, right? So they're taking the Penguins management is taking calls from Boston and whatever else. And I think that rubbed certainly a big chunk of the fan base the wrong way, because you do feel like there's an absentee landlord component to all this. But also Fenway, and this is where Penguins fans need to be careful with being overly excited about this. Fenway paid all the bills and they cut all the checks that Kyle Dubas could have wanted. That hockey staff is enormous. It's a 13-person front office. It's a 26-person scouting staff. It's a team that could have spent to the cap if it wanted to. So financially, there was plenty of support from Fenway. Now there's certainly an emotional component to it when you're talking about an ownership group clicking with a fan base that wasn't present. But I think you got to be careful if you're a Penguins fan who's overly excited about this for that reason. Now, is it the Hoffman family? Yes, in the sense that it's a family owned a family owned concern, and there is a father and children at the top of the food chain. But it's also the Hoffman family of companies where they own hundreds, literally, of brands that they've bought into over the years. So this isn't necessarily the mom and pop shop, everybody's family approach to things, and it's also not the singularly wealthy guy model that we've seen in the past either. So there is some, there is. Be careful before you start framing it that way. Now, do I think that this is an overall good thing for the Penguins? Yeah, I do. There's a chance to get Mario Lemieux involved back in more intimately, which had certainly been an issue. And the Hoffman family, above all else, seem like they really care about hockey. They own the Florida Everblades, and they've been trying to buy a professional, an NBA team or an NHL team for years. So they have hockey ties, yada yada. They check a lot of boxes. And there's certainly a reason for optimism over this. But I do think, Penguins fans, from what I've seen online, probably need to slow their roll just a little bit. Let's see how this pans out before we're ready to, call it an unfettered upgrade over whatever we saw from Fenway Sports.
Yeah, and I don't know if anyone's saying that yet. It's more just like, why are they being sold already? Of what's going on. So there's a lot of stuff from Josh Yohe. Rob Rossi also did something like, who is the Hoffman family, back in August, actually. Like, that's how long this has been kind of percolating in some hockey circles. So Rob did a nice job kind of introducing who these people are, what this company is. The Everblades, which they own, have been fared pretty well. It's an ECHL team, but they've done well under that ownership. So lots to chew on there from Rob and from Josh. And I think it's just like FSG looked at the Penguins, like, this is their corporation, and it was like, oh, we have an opportunity to make a bunch of money here. Take the Penguins then. And that's good business. But it leaves fans being like, what the heck is happening? Are we okay? It looks like the short answer right now is yes, but let's also wait and see how the new ownership group does.
Yeah, they sold because they could make $1 billion plus whatever profit they made on the team over the last 4 years. Is it a short turnaround? Absolutely. Should that make people nervous? Yes, to some extent. But I don't think there's any particularly difficult explanation as to why this happened now. $1 billion is a lot of money for anybody, including FSG.
Yeah. All right, let's get to a couple games from last night. There's two that were on the schedule Wednesday night that stood out to me for more than just the stat line. There's some bigger takeaways that we can get to from last night's slate of games. Number one, the Florida Panthers. They are charging up the standings, Sean. They win 3-2 last night against the Los Angeles Kings. Carter Verhaeghe, he's got 7 goals. He's been great in December. His line with Sam Bennett and Brad Marchand have been excellent in the month of December, and so have the Florida Panthers. They have gone from last in the East on December 2nd to winning 6 of their last 7, and now they are 1 point back of a wild card spot, or just a spot in the Atlantic. Like, they're 1 point out of being in a tie for a playoff spot. So a huge, huge month of December for a team that could be getting Matthew Tkachuk back in about a month.
Yeah, and they're beating relevant teams too, right? Like, we saw it last night. They beat the Kings. Kings are good. Beat Tampa before that. Beat Dallas before that. Utah, the Islanders, Columbus to some extent. So this isn't fool's gold. They're not beating up on the Flames and the Kraken and the dregs of the league here either. 29-20 in goal differential over those 7 games. I think this is the push that everyone, overall was expecting from them, but also they had been mediocre and struggling to some extent for long enough where it was fair to wonder whether this was going to happen. Like, we were getting to that point where it was like, it's moving day, right?
Yeah.
If they're gonna snap into Panthers mode, they need to do it pretty quickly, and I think we've seen them do just that. Yeah.
And the Panthers still don't know if Matthew Tkachuk will be. I saw this this morning, given a lot of the talk about the Winter Classic coming, role models playing the festival or whatever. But if you care,
Role models.
His name's Role Model.
Is he okay?
He's a singer.
Oh, yeah. Good for him.
Yeah. He's fun. The Panthers don't know if Matthew Tkachuk is going to be ready in time for the Winter Classic. So I say about a month. We still don't exactly know. That's probably the ideal timeline if he's back in January, especially if you want him playing for Team USA at the Olympics. You probably want him to get like a couple weeks of games under his belt before heading to Milan. But we'll see. I think it's still, the fact is we're finally starting to see the whole like stay above water until you can get some guys back.
Yeah, they're right. They're right there. They're
doing more than that now. Yeah.
Yeah, they're a point out of the wild card. They're a point out of third place in the Atlantic Division, which is currently Tampa. Like, they've bridged the gap, and that's always what the season was going to be like for them, is finding a way to keep their head above water until Tkachuk comes back, and then kind of seeing what happens. So yeah, I'm not surprised by it. I don't think anybody should be.
No, it was a matter of time.
At the same time, a little bit earlier this month, and certainly at the end of November, they were looking shaky enough where you're like, maybe this isn't actually going to happen. Mm-hmm. But they're the champs for a reason, man, and they've shown that over the last 7 games.
And Sam Bennett's playing better lately too. I know we had Shayna on.
He had to.
When we had Shayna on, it was like, should we cut him from Team Canada? Like, we don't need him and Tom Wilson if Sam Bennett's going to have 8 points in the NHL or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. So he's come alive. That line has come alive. Carter Verhaeghe, as I said, 7 goals in the month of December. Only Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, and Alex DeBrincat have more. So that guy and that line are doing a lot of work for the Panthers right now.
Carter Verhaeghe is capable of carrying a team for stretch. Yeah. He's a streaky dude. Sometimes the percentages don't go his way, but when he's when he's at this level, man, he's capable.
Yeah.
He's capable of being the first or second or third best player on a team, no question asked.
When he's on, it works. Okay, one last thing before we get to Joe Smith. The Winnipeg Jets lose again, 1-0 loss to the St. Louis Blues. They might be in some trouble, Sean.
Yeah, and Murat Atesh had a great piece around this morning saying, just as much. This just might not be their year. That's kind of what it boils down to. I think they were a team. Everybody knew what the potential stumbling blocks were for them. They had a bunch of guys have career years last year, and they rely on Connor Hellebuyck, just like we all know. You have some of those guys play a little bit worse than last season. You have Jonathan Toews clearly not be the answer at 2C at a minimum. And then you have Hellebuyck get hurt. Man, that's just a recipe. It's a recipe for bad news. And especially now, I know we talked to Joe a lot about the state of the Central Division. I think the alarm bells should be blaring in Winnipeg right now. No question.
Yeah. His tweet with the story is actually very funny. It says, "Are the Jets already cooked?" And the headline is, "Are the Jets good again or already hopeless? A debate with myself."
Murat's not cooked. No, Murat is great. Cooking.
Yeah, Murat's cooking right now. Yeah, they're interesting because I'm sure we'll have the same 2 conversations about them all year. Is, oh, actually, it's fine. The Jets are looking good. I apologize. And then, no, they're cooked. And that is kind of how we've talked about them over the last couple of years. It's been a bit of a streaky team, but Hellebuyck is back. Is that enough for them to get into playoff contention? Like, I don't know.
He'll have some stretch where he allows 4 goals in 7 games or something, and then okay, that's I feel like that's certainly potentially on the books for them. But man, Central Division's a beast.
Yeah.
And one of those teams just added the second best defenseman on earth with a little trademark sign next to it. I feel like we need to start charging people.
This is really funny. Murat's great. Are the Jets good again? Are they any good at all? Today my brain goes toe to toe with its worst enemy, itself. It's great. Read the story.
61% chance to make the playoffs according to Dom's numbers. So that's a very funny part of Murat's piece too. Now the Jets want to listen to Dom. Very, very interesting.
So we listen to Dom now?
Uh-huh.
It's really funny.
I don't personally.
No, never.
I can't speak for the Jets.
I just feel like they're going to be stuck in the mushy middle, and that's obviously not a great place to be.
That's where they've always been. I don't care if they're winning President's trophies. That's a mushy middle team, my friends. Okay. I hate to break it to you.
Okay, well, now everyone's going to be mad at us. Anyways.
What are you gonna do?
Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Joe Smith about Quinn Hughes. I don't know if you heard. He's on the Wild now. It's crazy. That's coming up next. All right, I know we've had a lot of Quinn Hughes conversations over the last week on the Athletic Hockey Show, but somehow nobody has been able to wrangle Joe Smith or Mike Russo. They might be busy. Something might have happened. I don't really know what's going on in Minnesota, but we finally got Joe Smith here on the show. It's been busy. What's going on over there? Why? What happened?
Yeah, State of Hockey's been pretty excited in the last week. A little busy here, but yeah, it's if you're a hockey fan, and I mean, just a blockbuster trade like this rarely ever happens, right? One of the top players in the entire world, so it has definitely made a huge impact on the Wild, on the NHL, and the Central Division, which is murderous right now. So clearly, judging from the first couple of games and the ovation he got the first game in his debut, they're really going to love Quinn, and I think they hope that Quinn really loves them.
What has the Quinn Hughes experience been like in Minnesota the last 5 days? You just spoke a little bit to the reaction, the response. I know there was so much on social media, just like seeing Quinn Hughes in the Wild jersey the first time. It's a 6-1 win in his debut. Just like immediate star power on the power play. Like there's just so many prongs to what Quinn Hughes is going to mean for this franchise. But what does the first few days look like for you, Joe?
Well, initially there was just a huge amount of shock, right, among everybody, and then people not realizing, oh, this happened to us, right? And then it went into a lot of genuine excitement among the players too. They were doing these group chats, and like Foligno found out he was calling everybody from Krill and Spurgeon, like, "Hey, do you see what happened?" And players were just genuinely pumped. They're going to miss the guys that they traded in Marco Rossi and Z Bouillon and Liam Ogren, but they're genuinely excited, of course, about this big-time player in Quinn Hughes. And the first game at Grand Cristiano Arena was electric. I mean, the guy got a standing ovation at the end of warm-ups. Just the whole game, anytime he had the puck on his stick, it was like anticipation and making some noise, and there were signs, and like I think he really was blown away. He said he knew this was a hockey market, but he was kind of just blown away by the response and how he was valued, not just by the Wild fans, but by Bill Guerin. Like, I'm sure you saw the quote about that, about him sacking up and giving up a huge package for him. But yeah, like there's just a genuine amount of excitement around the fan base, and that whole place went nuts on Sunday and then Tuesday, and they're obviously riding a hot streak as it is, and they're really banged up. Like they're missing like 5 regulars right now. They're still on this stretch of really good hockey, and so they're hoping that once he gets settled in and they get some of the regular players back, that they'll be able to keep this rolling in the second half of the season. But crazy right now that with how good they've been, they're still third in the division and third in the league. Right.
Yeah, I think it's an indicator of how good they'd been for the last 6 weeks. Really, outside of October, they've been incredible. They were doing it without much in the way of production from the defense, right? Like they were, I think, 29th in points from the blue line. They had no players projected to have a plus offensive net rating at defense, which is which is crazy. So that the fact that they were able to put together that run and still have, a pretty serious area of need in the first place was impressive. And then you tack on the fact that, like, you outside of maybe Cale Makar, you couldn't address that issue with a better fit than Quinn. I mean, the optimism has to be incredibly, incredibly high for good reason right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the points from the blue line, and Faber has been really good the last 5-6 weeks offensively. And you saw his first game with Quinn of just how much he was more up in the play and creating offense. But you're right, they don't create much points from the blue line, but he fixed that automatically, and the power play becomes that much better. Wait till Matt Zuccarello gets back from his injury. One of the issues that they've had were like not as much rush chances, zone entries, all that stuff, and that's what his specialty is, basically. One-man breakout. And so for him to be able to fuel the offense a little bit, which they've been struggling for secondary scoring, only makes the rest of the guys better.
Do you think the plan is to keep him with Brock Faber, Joe, or do you see the Wild maybe splitting them up to give Faber the more defensive minutes and then you just give Quinn the time to be that one-man breakout? Or do you like the idea of them playing together to help push Faber more into the offensive side of his game?
Well, it's still early, Hailey, but I think the first few games, I think they're going to try to stay with that. And assuming Brodin gets back and is healthy, I think Brodin and Spurgeon are a really good second pair there too. Mm-hmm. So they played together for a long time before. So I think they can do both. And so I think the way it slots in now, it'll be Hughes and Faber, Brodin, Spurgeon, and then when healthy, Middleton and Bogosian. So it's hard to find maybe outside of Colorado a better top six, I think, right now.
Yeah, it makes everything fall into place for them, doesn't it? Like, yeah, I look at Brodin and Spurgeon, and I think their game is such that you could imagine Minnesota using those guys in the way that we've seen Tampa Bay use Ryan McDonough and whoever else over the years, where you say, all right, you guys maybe get some of the D zone starts, maybe eat some of the toughs and free up at least a little bit more matchup wise for Quinn and Faber to feast. It's wild. It's wild what happens whenever you add a top two defenseman in the league to your blue line, how everything else just kind of magically falls into place. But it feels like that's what we're looking at with them right now, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think if you're a Wild fan, like when else in history have you had arguably 3 of the top 20 players in the world on your team? With Kaprizov, I think Boldy's in that category, and Hughes. So he just changes the complexion of the entire team, basically, from the back end forward. And, I think one of the needs that they had going in was either like a help up front, like a scoring winger or something like that. But I think he creates so much offense from the back end and makes other guys better and creates more zone opportunities and that's going to help fix that need. Even though I think they're still going to try to fix that or try to address that before the deadline, I think that does help in the short term.
Yeah, doesn't that it kind of gives them options moving forward. It gives Guerin options moving forward in terms of what he does next, right? Because I think before, it's always been an issue for them where we're talking about center depth and is Rossi, is he a top 6 piece, blah blah blah. All these questions we've had about them down the middle for a couple of generations worth of players moving back. Now it's like, when you have that element in the back end, you can probably get a little bit more creative. You can get a little bit more flexible in terms of the kind of additions that you make to the forward group. It doesn't just have to be they add a center because that's just that's where they're lacking. It seems like they have added some real flexibility in terms of future moves.
Danilo Yurov should be brought up in this conversation too, because I don't think this deal gets done, or they feel more comfortable about this deal getting done and trading Marco Rossi. That Danilo Yurov has emerged so well as a rookie here. The Russian here, first round pick, same draft class as Ogren, has really stepped into like a top line role, right? And now he was with Kaprizov and Tarasenko, the Russian line, since Zuccarello is injured. But his 200-foot game, his smarts, he's got some size to him. So I think for him to kind of develop to where he is made Bill Guerin feel more comfortable doing Rossi, because if you like him or not, he is a top 6 center, a guy who's played almost every game the last couple of years and very durable and smart and strong. So to have him there, and then Joel Eriksson Ek, one of the top shutdown centers, as number 2 center, Ryan Hartman and Nico Sturm, great guy for playoffs and draws like that too. So they're still be a little thin there in terms of behind there, an injury away from being a little bit of an issue. But like you said, when you have puck movers in the back end, that helps create some more opportunities and the like, and you have some wingers who drive play like centers too. Like I remember covering Kucherov in Tampa, like he created like a center, right? The way he entered the zone and all that stuff like that too. So you can have guys who aren't in that center spot create like that.
So we've talked a bit about the Central. It's a meat grinder in the NHL right now with the Avs, the Stars, and the Minnesota Wild. And I think the Wild were obviously looking like a contender before this trade. We've mentioned that in this conversation. They were playing really well outside of a bad start to this NHL season. But now the Minnesota Wild add that number one puck moving, play driving defender in Quinn Hughes, somebody that the Avs and Stars kind of both had on their cup checklist. So, Joe, I'm curious, how does this trade shake up the Central a bit to you? Or does this make the Stars the Wild, even more competitive against the Avs and the Stars? Like, how does this maybe change the makeup of the top of this division and maybe even the league for you?
Yeah, well, I don't think it just supplants Avalanche all of a sudden, right? I think Avalanche are still the class of the NHL, and for a lot of different reasons for that. But I think if you are the Minnesota Wild or the Dallas Stars, you don't have to go through that first round series, and this gives them a much better chance to get out of that one and then go. Once you get out of that one, I think for this franchise and fan base, just a mental hurdle getting out of the first round. Haven't done that in 10 years, so I think to do that, all of a sudden anything's possible, right? But I do think in the elements of the top three, it does give them a better chance to advance. It doesn't give them all of a sudden the number one team in the Central. I think Colorado still is up there, but the Wild have played those teams well this year. Maybe not in previous years, but they have played them. They both beat them both and in their home matchups this year. So even while shorthanded, so I think they ended the Avalanche's 11-game winning streak and the Stars' 11-game point streak at the same time. So I think it does make it even that. I think Dallas and Minnesota are pretty deadlocked right now in terms of what they have. I think Colorado's a little bit ahead of them, but it definitely puts them in a much better position, I think, to me, to go into a series and say you can win 4 out of 7 now.
Mm-hmm. Just more generally about the Wild, what's the division of labor going to look like with Philip Gustafsson and Jesper Wallstedt moving forward? I mean, Wallstedt's been a revelation. He's a top prospect who comes in and he's got however many shutouts now, but Gustafsson is, clearly in the last couple of weeks given us the last week or so, given us a reminder of his bona fides as well. So is this a situation where we're going to see it's like a 50-50 timeshare moving forward, or what's the going thought in terms of what things are going to look like in the net moving forward for them?
Yeah, it's a tough question. I think they have gone, aside from one rare example of the strict goalie rotation, the back and forth 50-50 the last month or so. And I think that will continue going forward as long as the schedule is as condensed as it is. So, because Gustafsson had shut out the other night, both of them are kind of feeding off of each other. Both of them are staying fresh, which is important. I think will be interesting to me is what happens down the stretch. Do they give it to a guy and say, hey, you're the number one now? Because it is hard for me to envision a goalie split in a playoff situation. That is harder to do, to have your goalie go back and forth 50-50. So I do think they're going to continue that from the time being of having Wallstedt and Gustafsson splits the starts, which makes sense considering how well things have been going. So why change what's not broken? But we'll be curious if that changes from John Hines, like down the stretch, if somebody can quote unquote win the net and all of a sudden have that going into the playoffs versus just going half and half.
All right, so one more question for you, Joe. I know you and Russo have been working on a ton of this Quinn Hughes content. Everyone can read it at The Athletic, but obviously one of the big ones is the kind of future-looking question. There are no long-term guarantees from Quinn Hughes in Minnesota, but there's maybe reason to believe. Why is there reason to be optimistic about Quinn Hughes' long-term future in Minnesota? I know it's early, but we have to ask.
Well, I know it's early, but it's not too early for fans to wonder, right? I mean, the minute this happened, you're wondering, you have this big of a haul in a trade, you have to feel like there's some way to keep him. And I think what struck me in his press conference, which the quotes have gone viral ever since, was he didn't have to say all the things he did about the Wild and how much they gave up to get him, right? He could have said, I'm open-minded. I've been here 4 hours. Let's see what happens. Let's play it out. But he went out of his way to basically say it made a big difference for me that Billy Guerin was sacking up and give us all these prospects and this package, how much they valued me. I think he wants to feel valued. He wants to feel important. He wants to feel like he's a big part of the future. And so he said he'll remember that. So I think that was a signal to me, and people I've talked to and Russo have talked to who know him well say that was not lip service at all. That was not phony. He truly means that. So his relationship with Bill Guerin and how this trade came about and how it was handled certainly will help them with some goodwill going forward. But the number one thing to me and what's important to Quinn Hughes is winning. And so I think the best thing that the Wild can do to convince him to stay is have a strong second half and a good playoff run here this year. And if he feels like if the hockey's good, a lot of other things fall into place as well. And so I think that's what'll be important for the Wild to show that they are a true contender now. So, but if they do that, then I don't think it's hard to argue for him a better place. He said it's close to Detroit, to his family. He's still on the East Coast, kind of. And then if you signed a 3-year
yeah, how far is that drive to the beach from Minneapolis, right? Yeah,
East far away. Jersey Shore is far away. But let's say you sign a 3-year deal, right? And then you lock up with Jack when he's a free agent, right? And you're both free agents together. So he doesn't have to sign a 8-year deal next summer. You can sign a shorter deal, go for a couple runs here, and then all of a sudden have options then. So
and go to the beach.
And go to the beach.
Yeah.
Are they viewing this as 2 playoff runs with him regardless? Like is there a world where we where he gets flipped at the deadline again next year, or can we pencil him in for that much?
It's hard to imagine, knowing Bill Guerin the way he goes for it and he's a risk taker. I could see them doing the 2 playoff runs with him, depending on how this one goes, of course. But in theory, they like to have some sort of idea before then if it's going to happen. And if they don't, if they're told, kind of like Vancouver was told that it was time, then I think they have no choice but to make that move at the deadline a couple of years from now and recoup some assets. But all they're thinking now is like, hey, this is our guy. He's a big part of our future, and we're playing it like this is a guy who's going to be on this team for many years to come. So let's enjoy the ride and see what happens. And there's a lot for fans to enjoy now with Quinn Hughes on the back end.
All right. Quinn Hughes' 3rd game with the Minnesota Wild tonight. Columbus Blue Jackets, Minnesota Wild. Joe and Russo will be there. Keep reading all their content. There's actually so much stuff on the website, Joe. It's crazy.
It really is wild.
As someone who's worked with Russo the last little bit on Rivalry Series, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot just how your motor operates. That dude is on another one right now.
You guys are both machines. I want one solid meaty Quinn Hughes feature every 3 days moving forward, please. I'll take it.
We're working on it. Yeah. Last Friday and Saturday, I think we're 6 stories, I think, Friday and Saturday. Yeah. It was crazy.
We've been reading them all. It was great prep for this. Thanks so much, Joe. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much to Joe Smith for joining us on the show to break down the Quinn Hughes trade a little further. Really just can't speak enough to how this trade is going to impact the Central. I don't, like Joe said, is it going to mean that the Wild are going to beat the Avs? No, but it makes everything more juicier, and it makes them at the very least more competitive and able to win a playoff series, which is what fans have wanted to see for a while.
For 7 years or once in 7 years, whatever the streak is. Yeah, it just ensures that they're going to go into whatever the first round matchup is without having some major box left unchecked, right? Because that's serious stuff. You're going to be playing against Cale Makar, and you're going to be playing against Miro Heiskanen. I know the Jets are a mess right now, but you're potentially playing against Josh Morrissey. You're looking at guys who are top 10, at the minimum defenseman in the league. And when you don't have anything approaching that, and all due respect to Brock Faber, but he doesn't have that level of dynamism that we see from those guys. It's important to be able to go out and get somebody who can go toe to toe with them, and Quinn Hughes can do a whole lot more than that. So yeah, I think it's a big deal for the Central, absolutely.
Okay, so one thing I did want to bring up, and this has been on my mind since I saw the Quinn Hughes quote everyone wants to talk about, and I don't want to come off like I'm poo-pooing Bill Guerin or the Wild. I'm not raining on your parade. I think two things can be true here. Do I take Quinn Hughes at his word that he likes being appreciated and Bill Guerin did a good job trading for him? Yes. However, all I see every time I see that quote about Bill Guerin sacking up, I just see that as a shot at Tom Fitzgerald and the Devils for not making the trade that everyone thought was going to happen or everyone was asking for. To me, that's like thanks, Bill, our like ice cream sundae king. Throwback to our.
That's a pull. Yes, deep pull.
Real fans will know. Yes, I think that's like thank you, Bill, because it was a good trade. He did sack up. So
you
like
wince every time you say that.
It's gross.
Yes.
It's whatever. It's not for me. But I also see that as like, hey, Devils, I see that you didn't make this deal. I see you.
Yeah, we should have brought in McIndoe to do his trades are hard bit. Like, someone think of the poor.
I could have Quinn Hughes, but what am I to do?
And we see the excuse making too, where the Devils are up against the cap, and they would have had to maybe move Andre Palat or Dougie Hamilton or blah 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 blah.
Sorry,
blah. Just do it because then you run the risk of Quinn Hughes ending up in Minnesota. Pretty good situation, as Joe said. It's close to Detroit. He's playing with Kirill Kaprizov, and he's playing with Matt Boldy, who he's going to be on the Olympic team with in a couple months, mind you. It's a pretty good team, and winning changes the calculus. So if he does end up in Minnesota, say they do beat the Dallas Stars in the first round of the playoffs, then who knows what happens, man. You are putting a lot of faith in the allure of playing with Jack and playing with Luke, because Minnesota is a pretty good place to play hockey for a lot of different reasons. And absolutely, the door is open right now. And the fact that it's open because they couldn't clear cap and trades are hard and that's tough.
Yeah. I'm not buying the sob story. And I just see that as Bill did it and you didn't buy.
Hey, it's true.
So
Ball don't lie, man. Quinn Hughes is on a new team right now, and it ain't Tom Fitzgerald's. So it's the way the ball bounces. It's the way the puck bounces.
Yeah. All right, that's enough. Sorry, Wild fans. Like, we've been gassing you up all week. I needed to get that off my chest.
First round loss incoming. The streak continues.
Sean,
yes.
That's not what I said. Not what I said. Okay, one last thing to wrap the show. There's a little update on this. I was ready to spend 45 minutes doing a deep dive on, like, this was going to be like a Hailey and Sean find out episode of what happened in Seattle. I've got documents, I've got tweets, I've got 1-minute press conferences where only one person asked a question, and I wanted to get to the bottom of it. Sound of Hockey did. So thank you to Sound of Hockey. You've saved Sean and all of our dear listeners from me trying to investigate
from
something.
45 minutes worth of investigating a topic that
really doesn't need much investigation. I was just really interested in it.
Sure.
And then Joe Smith was available, so we changed course. But really weird situation in Seattle. The Kraken have lost 9 of their last 10. Head coach Lane Lambert comes out after they lose to the Avs, which was actually kind of like an entertaining. It was like a decent game. I know the Kraken haven't been great, but decent game, at the very least entertaining. Lane Lambert comes out, takes 4 or 5 questions from the team employee. It's about 1 minute. They're all short answers, and then he leaves. For those unfamiliar of how that works, typically coach comes out, there's a microphone or people, it's a scrum, and all the media ask questions. Like, I have never seen anything like that in my time working in the NHL, where the local media in the room, because it's not like they weren't there, I've never seen anything where the media were not allowed to ask questions. That's actually like against the
Policy.
the
Yeah.
Media Writers Association and like league media policies. So just like a truly wild thing. And the thought was like, who did this? Like, what happened here?
They treated it like the only analog I can find is the way it works in the NFL whenever there's a bad call and there's a pool reporter and someone gets designated as the person to go ask so-and-so about what happened with the overturned touchdown call, like in the fourth quarter. Like that's the closest comparison I can make here. I've certainly never seen it where there's a pool reporter situation basically for a head coach.
Yeah. So from The Sound of Hockey, they wrote about this last night, actually. So I'm glad this came out. And a member of the Kraken's communication department explained what happened here. Because honestly, it looked like Lane Lambert was like sour grapes being like, I'm not answering any freaking questions, only from my team staff. Like it looked like this was a coach's decision, in my opinion, which is just like such sour grapes. Like, you guys have lost and now you don't want to speak to anyone. Like, I don't know, get over it. That's always my thought with like the media crankiness. And it looks like it was the PR department's decision, or so they say. They are now saying to The Sound of Hockey that they got the questions funneled to the team reporter. So the team reporter was like asking them, hey, what questions do you want to ask? And then he asked them of Lane Lambert instead of letting everyone ask their own questions. He retained the microphone for the whole 1-minute press conference. And then Lane Lambert left. So the team rep from the Kraken is saying that it was their decision. They wanted to do it to protect their head coach. It wasn't the head coach's idea. And they now feel bad because they put, everyone in, a bad position. It's just like, it was so weird. It was so weird.
Yeah, it's not how it works, and I think it's indicative of how stuff has gone in Seattle this season. I know there was a stretch a month or so ago where they were using smoke and mirrors and chewing gum and toilet paper to rig their way up to the middle of the standings. It's a team that everybody thought was going to be quite bad, and they are indeed quite bad. They've lost 9 of 10 or 10 or 11 or whatever the stretch is. So stuff's going sour and people are getting mad, and that's life. That's life in the big leagues. That's the way it goes. You're going to have losing streaks where, where the coach or whoever else doesn't really feel like answering questions, but it ain't how it works, and I think it's definitely a little bit of a welcome to the big leagues moment, whether it's Lane Lambert, whether it's the PR staff, that's not how things are done. And people are going to notice if nothing else, man.
Yeah.
It might be how it works in other parts of society, but this isn't full on state media. Like you can still have some independent outlets asking potentially difficult questions.
Yeah, definitely weird. It just made it look like he was hiding from the media, or that the comms department didn't want media being hard on him. Weird choice. It blew up yesterday, so it was a weird choice in Seattle.
That team stinks too. So whatever. Like
Okay.
there's gonna be more moments like this for them moving forward. I hope they're used to dealing with bad losses.
I just think there's like
potentially difficult questions because Seattle stinks.
Okay, you don't need to pile on. I was gonna say
I'm
like
not
there's
piling on.
other
They're bad.
there's other
That's a
ways
bad. That's a
to-
bad hockey team.
Yeah, and listen, like I covered Daryl Sutter in Calgary. Like I've dealt with coaches who like don't want to deal with the media. There were some games, and it was actually always kind of funny. There were some games where like Ryan Huska would come out because Daryl would just be like, "No, someone else go." Fine,
not today.
Send your assistant. Send someone else. You're sick of meeting the music. Ask one of your assistants to go do it. When it was funny is if like Markstrom had a bad game, then Jason LaBarbera would come out, which was Daryl being like, "This is your fault. You go talk to them."
Human shield, yes.
So there's different ways to. It was just weird choice. The Kraken got dumped on pretty heavily
just
online yesterday. It was just like an unforced error.
Just have Lambert come out and do a 1 minute press conference with everybody and give short, bratty, angry answers to questions from a wider range of people than just Bob Condor, who's the.
I was trying not to name him because they put him in a bad spot too. Like
awful.
I feel bad for him more than anything.
Completely.
Because what's he supposed to do? Be like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's just unfortunate. Yep. Just a really weird situation in a tough time in Seattle.
A great look into the tangled web of working in media in the 21st and a quarter of the way through the 21st century too. It's fraught and on a lot of different levels.
Yeah, but that's a bit more sausage gets matey. I'm glad we didn't have to investigate that. Thanks to Sound of Hockey for getting the answers for us.
Yeah, you guys only got 8 minutes of that versus 45. So congratulations.
I had all my notes already. All right, there's 10 games on the schedule in the NHL today, as we mentioned, Columbus and Minnesota. If you want to catch the third game of Quinn Hughes in a wild jersey, Seattle Kraken, Calgary Flames tonight. We can let's see.
Get psyched! What a game that is.
Dallas, San Jose, Edmonton, Boston. Oh, Toronto, Washington's interesting. Pittsburgh Penguins, Ottawa Senators. I don't know why I'm reading the schedule. We've already hit our time.
Stop. Yeah.
Thanks everyone for listening to this. I was trying to find like a good show because a good game because I kept being like,
yeah, they all stink.
Trying to sell the game of hockey. Anyone listening to this is already, if you're still listening to this pod, I'm sure you like hockey a lot. So thanks everyone for listening. This is our last show of the year from Sean and I. Max, Laz, and Jesse have the next show on Monday. Sean and I will return on January 8th. Happy holidays, everyone. Wow, we got a really big break. This is great. Bye, everybody. I'm in a great mood now.
We'll take it.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and ring the bell to stay informed and catch new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And in the meantime, you can join our Discord community. We'll see you there.